What's the most satisfying no you've ever given? Tale 1. In her voluntary work, my wife often interacted with members of the public. She often interacted with new individuals, but she particularly connected with one lady. After meeting for coffee and seeing they had a lot of interest, they decided that both couples should go watch a movie, have dinner, or do something else together. The lady contacts my wife one evening and says something along the lines of, "I guess we're right near your home. We can stop by so that our spouses can meet if you're available." Sure, we converse about beds. I see why my wife and the women got along so well. Then all of a sudden, the man gives me a brochure. Nope, sure, cool, just glance at it. Okay, the lady calls back the next day. Well, it so happens the regional manager is in town. He is a very wonderful guy, and I believe you ought to mean you are free to express your opinion to him on the information we presented to you. Nope. If you need anything, I will place anything you left me outside my door. We aren't intrigued. Nevertheless, there is nothing to say. The manager, who I had never met before, answers the doorbell a half hour later and enters after finding our door unlocked with the help of our new acquaintances. I don't believe you truly realize the chance you're missing out on here. I say what each homeowner ought to say at least once. Remove the Frank from my home. You don't have to act impolitely about it. While you haven't yet heard me say it, I certainly do. They disappeared, and that was all. The best thing I've ever spoken for you to know. As they are also victims, I do feel awful for the folks drawn into such frauds. I no longer feel terrible for you, however, if you start bugging people or barging into their houses like that. Well done for evicting them! Tale 2. I sometimes rent out of space. I made some poor decisions when I was just starting out. One of my houses had a lovely neighbor who often stopped by to visit while I was conducting repairs. It transpires that his son and his girlfriend are hunting for housing. Great. That saves me the hassle of having to find a tenant, I reasoned. I perform a background check, and although there are a few warning signs, they are all easily explained. The next several months were spent torturing me. Hell, they never made their rent payments on time and eventually stopped paying altogether. They desecrated the home. While there wasn't much serious damage, it was utterly filthy. They chiseled booty into the side of the tub, wrote it in cigar butts on the carpet, and covered it in nail paint. I ultimately kicked them out and ruled against them. I assumed I'd never accumulate. They never communicate with me. Let's go back 2 years. The home is deserted. I was going to start conducting turnover when a renter left. One day my phone rings. It's my previous occupant. He lost his girlfriend. He is once again living at home and is in desperate need of housing. Not for the life of you. Tale 3. Once my grandpa passed away, we had the typical situations where individuals emerge from hiding because they feel entitled to a portion of the leftovers. So, as usual, I went to the bank to put some money into my account. Also present was the financial advisor to my grandpa. She approached me after recognizing me and asking if she could speak with me. She then tried to persuade me to agree to her suggestion that we sell the whole estate. This resulted in the loss of my automobile, the roof over my head, and my mother's car, which was also covered by the estate. Given that my grandpa had recently passed away when this occurred, I simply felt there was another reason. So I refused. I wasn't about to risk losing everything since I was the sole remaining relative on that side of the family with the power to decide what would happen to my grandfather's fortune. She became enraged and told me I was being foolish, but I stuck to my guns and said they could have everything, my corpse. That ended up being a wise choice, since some attorneys went to my mentally challenged on long tail and seized almost all of the estate's money, leaving, you guessed it, all the property that we elected not to sell. The conspiracy theorist in me wants to think that my aunt's lawsuit was in the works long before I was made aware of it, and the attorneys paid off the advisor somehow so they could get more of the things they weren't supposed to. Luckily, not long after that, she was fired from her position. It feels even more good just knowing in retrospect that I prevented a lot of harm by advising her that she shouldn't panic out about her idiotic proposal. Anybody who makes an effort to gain unfair advantage immediately after a family has lost a loved one is just sort of disgusting to me. I got it, kind of. You work at a bank and deal with money, but if you're acting badly just after this family lost a loved one, you really need to get a life. Throughout the book, Tale 4, I oversaw a restaurant at a hotel. I was summoned to the pub a number of years ago after one of the bartenders decided to cease serving a group of males. These men were gathering to celebrate one of them getting married the next day. The patron who wanted to talk to me was identified by the bartender. The guy engaged me in a rather civil chat and didn't, in my very used opinion, seem to be inebriated a wide variety of persuasion techniques. He made an effort to win my sympathy, expressed regret for any previous actions, and vowed to manage his pals. Finally, he produced his badge to me, demonstrating his status as an off-duty police officer. I was on the fence, despite the fact that it was protocol to always back employees who made the no more booze for you call. He was a very kind man. Just when I'm about to give in and request another round for the group from my bartender, "Give me another frickin' drink," the groom shouts as he leans across to me. I laughed right away, and so did the person who had been arguing his argument. "So, that's about it, right?" he carried on laughing. "Unfortunately, sir, thank you guys, and good night. Anyway, congratulations on your marriage, sir. I really like this. When you start to question yourself, you get every conceivable kind of encouragement. However, it seems that the organization dispatched the appropriate person to present the case. In another reality, the AC sucker man may have been the one attempting to persuade you. Hey, listen up, Les, you dreg. We are not equal, even not that drunk. You should know that the wedding is tomorrow. Wedding, and we'll just have one more beverage. He's a policeman, and if you mess with him, he'll burn your frickin' Biden and throw you in jail. So please, you wanna pour us some drinks?" Tale 5. Oh, dude. I work for an anime convention, so there's a tremendous amount of gossip and drama going on. That is crazy. So, a couple of years back, I was waiting on an elevator with two gals who were discussing the future of my convention. Sunday has come. One of them remarks, "Oh my goodness, I am so pleased the conference is going back to the Hyatt next year," while they wait for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. "We were too huge for it to contain us any longer. Therefore, it is usually preferable to put an end to rumors before they have a chance to spread widely." I respond courteously, "Well, it's coming back." Both of them give me these annoying know-it-all stares. "No, it's not," one of them responds. "A buddy informed me about security. Yeah, so it's a I know someone game, but the convention's owner is my employer. I know where it will be hosted. I have held up hotel contracts for the next 3 years in my hands, but I don't want to pull the I know someone higher up the new stuff. That's petty." Hence, I respond by saying, "Now why don't you email in and resolve this for us? We have the time." She takes out her phone, visits our website, finds the contact page, and begins to type an email before pressing the submit button. My phone beeps after a little delay. I received a fresh email. Launch it. That is definitely from her. Convention will reportedly return to the Hyatt the following year, right? "No," I replied. And I clicked send. Very pleasant. "No, not even close." "Oh, my, that's pretty horrible. Hey, well, I like how you chose not to be petty and instead made that move. No cover. I would have made the same decision since the alternative may have led to more arguments and other issues. It would be best to promptly withdraw that finisher." Tale 6. I used to have major issues with expressing myself and would be walked all over as a consequence many years ago. On my way home from work one day, my buddy requested me to drop off the snow boots he had leased at the shop. I did as requested, but when I went to return them, I discovered a large late charge and was compelled to pay it. I then sobbed as I drove away in my vehicle, not knowing whether my buddy would reimburse me. I also had the sensation that I wasn't able to hold my own once again. At that point, it finally occurred to me that this would be the ideal time to attempt therapy and expressing myself as I had been learning to do. I reversed my vehicle and went back to the shop to get my money back. Even though I had to talk with the manager, they ultimately obliged and gave me my money back. It was their issue, not mine, how they set up the payment with my buddy. While it may seem little, the moment I began advocating for myself was a turning point for me. My life has been much better since then, and I am very clear about my limits and how I want them to be upheld. In general, I don't have any trouble expressing no when I consider myself to be aggressive. Well, yeah, I like hearing this since I myself needed to hear it years ago. Though I want to assist others and have people like me, sometimes I still struggle with simply wanting to please people and being walked all over. But ruin is found along that way. Say no more often. In the long term, you'll be a lot happier if you set limits. Tale 7. Recently, I worked as a paramedic on a hectic day in a big metropolis. Our team is sent to a cardiac arrest. In congested traffic, it takes us roughly 6 minutes to get there. It is a Section 1 priority of 8, just to put things in perspective. With any luck, the police and an MO supervisor will respond to this. MCs, a fire department, and American paramedics. A colleague welcomes us and informs us that the patient's leg has been suffering for 2 days when we arrive. Say what? It turns out that they waited for an ambulance for 40 minutes since it was very busy and the other units were dealing with worse patients, such those who were really having cardiac arrest. Since it was a Friday and they were closing shortly, the caller, now friend, took it upon herself to inform us that the patient had passed away in order to expedite our arrival. Once she finally told us what had happened, 12 of us had come upstairs to revive the patient. She had the audacity to request a ride with us to the hospital. Best no, not at all. Ever take a taxi? She had such a stunned and sorrowful face. Besides, the party was suffering from sciatica. The hospital was just a mile away, and all we did was collect vital signs. Deleted. Never tell the ambulance a lie. What in the world? You intended to arrive sooner, but your leg ached, so you impersonated a cardiac arrest? When someone does something similar, they may be driven away, and then, while they are leaving, they might learn about any other individuals who may have died as a result of the manner they tied up the ambulances. Tale 8. I find it tough to speak up against lousy employers, shithole management, those who don't understand logistics, etc. It's mostly a consequence of working in hospitality for a long time. In the last year, I changed my line of work to construction, and I returned to school to brush up on the fundamentals of numerous trades. I accepted this subpar concrete job I discovered online. One-man operation is how the business is operated by the owner, which is rather prevalent where I reside. In essence, he said that during his busy season before it snows, he only employs 3 workers. He was okay with it when I said that, other from some brickwork. I don't really know much about concrete. This man is embarrassing me beyond belief less than a week into the work by berating me and calling me an idiot every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes. When I ask for clarity on assignments, he tells me that his 8-year-old kid can drive and that I must be completely insane if I can't. The fact that I made a mistake the first time and did anything with face concrete set off this crazy, so he asked whether I'm on lithium. I was worried about being hurt. I sometimes put up with him doing this for another week and a half. We drove 7 hours back to the city for a day off, and I provided him my direct deposit information. He declined, telling me to bring it the following day when we go back to the city. I said, no, I won't be coming back. Your weak management abilities and insufficient communication are too much for me to handle. He simply began shouting that I'm a horrible guy who will never achieve at anything, and that I'm not as technically inclined as he believed. As he was merely looking for individuals with little experience to treat them like subhuman parasites, I really believe he required a licensed concrete finisher. He is to blame for this, in my opinion, but he would have to pay certified concrete finisher rates if he truly hired a professional concrete finisher. When you can pay less and still get what you need, why spend more money on something you don't need? Story 9. I was working in a poisonous, constrictive workplace where I had to wear more hats than a British monarch and constantly take on new duties. I love a challenge, therefore I would never say no. Yet after pointing out that my worth had increased just little, I made the decision to quit. I accepted a job offer that would have effectively doubled my pay after giving notice of my departure. All hell broke loose because of her. As a kind of intervention, a bunch of them took me to lunch and essentially did what they did best, presented the hard sale. I'm essential to the company. If I only persevere, they'll provide a road for my professional growth, and so forth. They then made a counteroffer, well aware of the amount I had offered, and completely lowballed me. Acting as if I couldn't calculate basic fractions and would be influenced by a gourmet lunch and the idealistic notion of business loyalty. We've done the best we can. Just wasn't adequate. During the course of the next 2 weeks, almost every higher-up drew me aside and gradually sweetened the deal. I stayed put. My life's simplest rejection. I truly felt guilty about the individuals I left behind when I was leaving that job since I was a survivor. Corporate loyalty is reciprocal, so if they want you to stick around and enjoy all that, they'll have to work hard to win your loyalty first. Well done for being steadfast. I've had similar circumstances when I had to quit my work since the $8 an hour I was making was hardly enough to pay my rent or groceries. They gave me a 25-cent rise after I informed them that I was leaving. In front of my employer, it was one of the few occasions I've ever laughed. Leave your tale in the comments, please. In the future, I would want to create a video on them. Don't forget to subscribe and like as well.